cute, Pete.
It is.
They're better rugby players.
Yeah, they
It's
don't
far
do too
better
bad at
watching the women play football and rugby than the men.
Yeah,
The men are lying down pretending to be hurt all the time, and
they play darts better, quite a lot better as well, don't they? So.
Can I just make a
player? Yeah.
Can I just make a comment? Women look better in dresses as well than men do.
That's just sexist.
That's true.
Oh God. What have I said? Okay, I've upset everybody.
Having said that, we've seen the pictures of you in a dress, so that is possibly fair comment.
Oh, that
Dorothy. Yeah, Dorothy.
Women look better than you do in a dress.
Well, yeah, cool, questionable.
Do you know what? I really wish I hadn't even started this. This direction. It's just wrong.
Oh, you did a good Dorothy. I can't fault you.
Yeah, Dorothy was good.
I really appreciate that. I just really appreciate you up in my artistic bent. But we won't even talk about that.
Spin-off series, yeah.
It's the only acting role I've ever had where I turn up with my nail varnish on my toes already, having the woman turning around and saying it's the wrong colour.
Oh well, they just do that to us. Just job satisfaction in it. They've got to assert themselves.
Yeah, you can't wear lippy with that beard, though, can you?
What is this? Is it Attack Me Day or something? Do you know what? Have I missed something?
Can be if you want.
Something in all of this. Right. Okay. What we're gonna do? We're gonna start off if there's any news this week. So let's. We've got a nice little gang today. So I think again, Adam's on Uranus. Notice I did say Uranus. I didn't say the other one.
Yes. What, Mars?
All right. All right. Okay. Fair enough. That's okay. Just don't go there. Yeah. Right. We're gonna start off with Adam in Kent. If he's got any news for us.
Might do. Yeah. There's a Roman fortlet that's been found in up near the Antonine Wall in Clyde Bank.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was news today.
What's it?
Oh, all right. Well, you can't say that. You cannot say that, and we cannot miss that out today. So, we're gonna actually we might go straight to Antonine Wall. Have we got any other stuff so I can get to it straight away? What else can I type in?
Yeah, do you want me to send it to you?
Clyde Bank.
Yeah, that would be useful. Yeah. If you could send it to me, I've just if you could do that, I'd be really grateful. Okay. Yeah, get that. Yeah, send it to me via email or text or something. How are you going to do it?
I'm going to chuck it on Messenger.
Oh right, yeah. No, that's fine. I'll get it. I'll get it when my device is up and running again. I've just had a power surge. Right. Okay. Well, we will do that. So right, okay.
Do you want me to send it to your email?
Thank you very much for that, Adam. And I might need everybody to try and have a little bit of news this week because I've got a little bit of a technical problem a minute. Right, okay then. Margaret, talking about technical problems. Margaret, you look like one of those women that should be taken out on a date.
Well, you've heard of the Red Lady of Paviland, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, what the fake Red Lady of Paviland, the topic that I was meant to be going out on tour slagging off. Yeah, that's the one.
Have you heard of the Red Lady of Elmiron?
Is this a joke or something?
No, this is in Cantabria in Spain.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's in the Elmiron cave. They found a Paleolithic skeleton of a woman covered in the red ochre.
What now?
No, she was discovered in 1903.
We've got to do this.
But since then, they've found that in this cave, they've been looking in this cave, and they've found what they think is a bone tool manufacturing area, 20,000 years old.
Oh, what? Adam, can you and Margaret just shut up in future in the beginning of these lectures? Because I'm going to look that up.
Well, this cave has got hearths and pits and other small structures. And yeah, they do think it was used as a tool manufacturing of bones. So
oh, right. So what's the name of this site? Because we've got to do this as well.
Elmiron.
Spell it.
Miron.
Miron.
In Cantabria in northern Spain.
So that's Myron, Cantabria.
Elmiron.
Myron, Cantabria. Okay. I think I might do a little bit of research on that for after the break. Right. That's okay. That's fine. Good. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Let me now. Right. Okay. Brilliant. We are getting there slowly. A bit like British Rail. So we've got two things before we even go anywhere. Right. Okay. I'm looking at my phone now to try and see what message I've had off what's his face, Adam. Right. Okay then. Is that it from you this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, okay, okay, right, next. Who's next? Pat's reading something, so she's got some news for us. Go on, Pat.
No, sorry, I don't have any news. So,
she turns up at my classes without any news. It's terrible. Right, okay. I got this piece by Adam now. Archaeologists just discovered remains of Roman fortlet. All right, we've got to do this. It's there. Right. Okay, who else have we got now? Peter.
Which one?
Oh, I don't care.
Go on, you first, Pete.
You first, Pete.
I've been reading a book on Homo sapiens, and from the very beginning of man. And one of the disturbing points was the people of Tasmania did not see another person for 10,000 years until the very early 1700s when we landed in Australia. And that's where the Tasmanian devils comes from, because these people had never seen another human for 10,000 years, completely isolated. That's Tasmania.
And then we gave them diseases that they
we did.
Yeah.
Good
ones.
We
did.
I think the head of the last
you'd think
Tasmanian
over that length of time they would have modified somewhat. I mean, not a lot, but changed somewhat from the rest of humanity.
To themselves, amongst themselves. Yeah.
Oh, I'm loving this stuff that you've all got this week. I'm loving that. Can you tell us anything more about that, Pete?
Not really. It's just the way that people from different parts of the world came together eventually, and people started to talk. But initially, there was no common language, and there was a lot of sign language, and they spoke to each other, but not widely to the world as a whole. So they kept their communication very, very local.
Is this the same as a dog from China not being able to speak to a dog in Africa because they got a different lingo?
Yep.
No, I'm serious now, because if we're talking about communication, obviously an animal like an elephant from Africa is not going to have the same language as an elephant from India, is it?
Well, no, he got bigger ears.
You know what I mean. Stop being silly.
Maybe that's why, though, because they were listening. Yeah.
Oh, shut up, you. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Thanks for that, Pete. That's a good one. What about the other Pete?
I'm glad other Pete went first, because I didn't know if he'd seen it. Where is it? Newquay, Cornwall. They found 3 roundhouses and then a Roman era estate all together. And the interesting one for me was an oval shaped Roman era building, which is apparently unique to Cornwall.
Yeah.
That would be very similar to Carnieni, the remains there basically in a way.
Mooney,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you think they had an eye?
Yeah. Yes. Can I just make a comment about all this? We're getting a lot of news in this week, and people are going out their way to find things, which is great. I might actually start asking you to send these things into us beforehand, because I would really like to have covered a little bit more about what Peter said and what the other Peter said. But obviously, I'm a bit obsessed by the other two at this minute. But all these bits of news are really useful, so I'm appreciating that. Right, okay. Anne and Andy.
No, I haven't anything. No, sorry. Nigel,
Right,
maybe that's helpful.
Okay, and Andy, have you got anything? Andy, you've got to say something, because what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'm going
I
to
have
get
got
this
something to
Roman
say.
thing up near now.
I went exploring locally, and went to a opposite end of the spectrum. Went to a industrial revolution period spot, which I've been wanting to go to for years and years and years, and never got round to. An ironworks very nearby here, which is quite interesting, called Leighton Beck Ironworks. And what I found, well, it was definitely there. Found slag banks, so I've picked up some bits of it, because you got this black stuff, and you can see that.
Nice, nice.
And your normal, like, clinky stuff, but then you get the green, and more interestingly, the blue. Right. So I thought, oh, I've not seen that before. So, because I don't know a great deal about the process, so I've been looking it up. And the blue is a glass byproduct of iron making that they stopped middle of the 19th century. So that dates it. Prior to that, which is what I thought it was. I thought it was more like sort of middle to late 1800s anyway. But there's no sign of the buildings, which is a bit bizarre. And I think the buildings must be where there's an existing building now, which is not where it says it is on the map, and not where it is. But there's no sign of any buildings anywhere near it. Just the slag banks. So a little bit of research. So
Oh no, definitely. We all would like to know more about that.
yeah, not quite sure where there's anything more about it, but I'll try and find out some more. But I don't know where the iron came from either. I know there's loads of willow coppicing and stuff around there for making charcoal, because there's lots and lots of lime kilns. So there's all that going on. And there are small deposits of iron. Obviously, the Furness Peninsula is all iron. But I don't know how they got it there. It's kind of like not really near the coast. So
did it all go to Furness Abbey?
No.
Not from there.
No. It's much later than that. Furness Abbey was long gone before that.
Okay.
Is it the same dating stuff as Millam?
No, I would think Millam's later. I know that the Jenny Brown's Point one we were working at was around 1700 to 1720-ish. And there's copper mines there, and I know there are a lot of small iron mines in the area, but they're all very small, like, one-man jobs or two-man operations. And I can't believe they set it up for that, because there's quite a bit of slag. So
Andy, you got us, everyone done this tonight. You've got us all into stuff, it's just, maybe we should have like a 10-hour class, there's just so much going on.
Yeah. A whole day.
What's that?
A whole day?
Oh yeah, a whole day with me. Yeah, you'd love it.
There's a lot of slag in that Rusland Wood. Have you been in there at all?
Which is that one?
Rusland. It's on the way to Ulverston.
No,
there's a song there. Ulverston, Ulverston.
Well, you're on the Furness Peninsula, which is really, really rich in iron ore.
Yeah,
it's that hematite, which is something like 70 or 80% pure iron, which is one of the highest in the air in the country.
Yeah,
could have come from there. Who knows? It's got to be brought in by boat somewhere and then carted up to it. So,
fab. No, I'm loving all this. I'm loving all this. Anyway, thanks for that, Andy, and David's probably going to tell us something about his arm, which would be great. David, tell us something today before we crack on.
No, fine, thank you. We're getting better.
Okay, well done, David. Right, so what I'm going to do, this is started off. I've actually got the piece lined up about the Roman site now. It's done. It's ready to go. I don't mess around when it comes to the Romans. I've got this this thing that Margaret was on about, right? This is very, very relevant. So it's well, it's slightly relevant. It's about sheep. Can you see this?
Yeah.
These are my Shetland sheep.
Oh.
And you can see that it's quite raw there. And that's my mower. She doesn't have good hooves.
But she didn't struggle at all, did she?
No, she didn't. She needed it doing.
Ah.
She needed it doing.
A bit of hoof rot in there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So what I did then was to put socks on her.
All right.
So if we go to another video, we're not going to do all of these. Basically, here we go. This is another one.
Oh, ouch.
No, that's looking all right.
Yeah.
It's nice and clean, that. Yeah.
It is nice and clean. Andy's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done. It's very common. It's good that you're doing it and keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
That's quite a good one.
Mm. Makes you wonder how
they got the iodine.
Yeah, makes you wonder how they managed on their own, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I think the problem is, Andy, is because they've been on grass and we don't have enough stone here.
Yeah.
And then obviously, if I show you the difference, this is like that he's a hybrid Shetland, but this is a 100% Shetland. You see the difference in the hooves. Hers are perfect.
Yeah, and bigger and chunkier, aren't they? I suppose they would be like goats, wouldn't they? They would stick to the more rougher ground. Yeah.
Yes.
And therefore drier. Yeah.
Yes. So these two sheep that I've shown you, the big one, Mauer, the white one, she's already been. She hardly needed anything, and the one thing about the reason why we're showing you these is simply because. Simply because these are old worldy sheep. They're fat and squat, and they're little sheep, and they get into little crevices and all the rest of it, and they're really difficult to catch. Well, yeah. So anyway, so I wanted to show you that. So I wanted to look at this thing that Adam gave us then. Anything else you want to say about my sheep, Andy? Are you there?
Yeah, I've got my tea now, so I'm fine, thanks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Andy, you'll have to come down and see my sick sheep one day. So anyway,
I'd like that. Yeah.
Good. When everything's up and running and things and the excavation's going and all the rest of it, you'll be very welcome. So anyway, now we've got this. It's archaeologists discovered remains of Roman fortlet near Clyde Bank 8 hours ago, and there it is. They found that as it is. It was immaculate when they found it. Right. Perfect. Anyway, no, that's a reconstruction. But if we go through this, the remains of a Roman fort have been discovered in West Dunbartonshire. New technology enabled the archaeological team at Historical Environment Scotland to uncover the structure after attempts to find it in the 1970s and 1980s failed. The fort that once stood next to the Antonine Wall. Its buried remains have now been uncovered in a field close to Carchleith Primary School in Duntocha, Clydebank. The Antonine Wall, obviously, that's one of the other frontiers in Scotland. Details of the fort were thought lost for hundreds of years, and this is this is the equipment that they're using now. And by the way, I don't know if any of you are aware, this might interest Andy, but you can now buy complete geophysical resistivity sets, which are now affordable. I know it's 3,200, but these resistivity tests used to be 15, 20, 30 grand ones. So lots more societies are getting this type of equipment to go out, but this type of thing is quite high duty. This fort was referred to in 1707 by antiquarian Robert Sibbard, who wrote that he had seen a fortlet in the area around Carley Farm. Excavation teams looked for it decades ago, but the exact location remained unknown. It's really good that they found it now. After employing gradiometry, which is as that roly thing that we first come across when they showed it in Time Team in the early 1990s. The technique measures small changes in the magnetic field, obviously looking at disturbance. It allows archaeologists to identify the stone base of the fortlet. So it's good that we got a stone base, which remains buried underground on top of this base. Turf would have been laid to build a rampart about 2 meters high. This fortlet would have been part of several along the Antonine Wall, well, more than several. A small little platoon of troops there, about 12 men. They would have manned the fort for a week at a time before being replaced by another detachment. How do we know that? I don't know. The fortlet would have been made up of 2 small wooden buildings to house the soldiers, 2 small barracks, staying there, and will have been used for 20 years when the Antonine Wall was being used for its I think secondary stage, actually, AD 142, AD 162. I think it may have been used before that. So obviously this detective work, archaeology is often partly detective work, and the discovery of Carley is a nice example of an observation made 300 years ago. A new technology, they've actually found it, and yeah, there you go. Nothing really much to see, but there it is. I'm glad we've been shown that. While up to 41 fortlets may have lined the wall when it was built, only 9 have previously been found. So finding this one adds 10 to the list of those sites along the Antonine frontier. For those that don't have a clue what the Antonine frontier is, let's just give a little bit more background. Personal text of Adam. We don't want to read that. And what we need coming up here is if we type in the Antonine Wall. And actually, do you know what we're going to do? Because I'm totally distracted, we're going to type in this other site that our wonderful Margaret mentioned earlier on. Oh, by the way, I can't just call Margaret wonderful. I've got to call Adam wonderful. Otherwise, it's it's not fair. This is the Antonine Wall. There it is. What we do know is that there was a third frontier north called the Gask Ridge, a little bit above the Firth of Forth. There was more than 2 frontiers in Scotland. And this is how impressive the Antonine landscape was. You've got the bank, you've got the ditch, and you've got the outer scarp bank there. And this is the Antonine frontier. And big chunks of it don't survive. But the reason why big chunks of it don't survive, it goes through a modern city, 2 modern cities, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and if you want to add a third one, Stirling as well. So that's what we're talking about. So what we're going to do now, the other bit of thing we're going to do now, sometimes you've got to be very wary when you're on Google. As I found out the other day, you're typing something in live and something dodgy comes up. So here we go. Let's just see if we don't get anything dodgy. So Elle, you help me on this, Margaret. Almiron, Cantabria.
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 Is
that right?
Yeah.
All right, go for it. Oh, look at that. Look at the. Oh, we're loving this. Oh, which one are we going to go with? Right. So what was the so what we were interested in? Oh, this Red Lady thing, weren't we? So is it called the Red Lady?
It was the Red Lady of Elmiron.
Right, Red Lady of Elmiron. See if we can find it. Red Lady of Almiron images. Oh, there we go. I tell you what, folks, right? We'll go with that one there. We'll go with archaeology. There it is. The Red Lady of Almiron. Team of, there we go. There's a skull. There's a skull there, lower mandible. Scoured the Almiron cave in northern Spain, starting in 1996, and found abundant remnants of prehistoric people. But it wasn't until 2010, when they investigated a narrow space beyond a large limestone block, that the cave began to reveal its greatest secret, a significant portion of a skeleton of a Magdalenian woman. Now, Magdalenian is a period that they use in Europe to describe a certain period when we've got human activity in Europe, in that sort of very cold period. Magdalenian woman who had died around 18,700 years earlier, at the age of 35 to 40 years old. That's really interesting. Not far off the age of the body and other human remains found on the Gower, but obviously that date is at least another 10,000 years before that. But it's rather interesting that we got this, a really small piece, really. So here we go. University of Cantabria found that the woman's bones were coated with ochre, a red iron-based pigment, earning her the moniker, the Red Lady of Almiron. The question is, Andy, whether she was a lady or a man. Her skull and most of her long bones were missing, but a group of researchers led by João Miguel Carretero of the University of Burgos found that her skeleton was otherwise mostly intact, suggesting she had been buried there. It's rather interesting that they're talking about, you know, bits of the body missing. That's the problem when we look at the Red Lady of Pavland, which actually turned out to be a man. But then again, today, that's like, Andy, isn't that a question? Basically, if the person back at the Pavland cave claimed that they were a woman, but biologically born as a man, that stands in modern day logic. So there we go. So she can be a lady if she wants. And this one's a lady as well. This is the first more or less substantial human skeleton of the Magdalenian epoch, if you want to call it, found in the entire Iberian Peninsula, Spain. The limestone block next to the Red Lady burial spot has a large number of engravings on its outer face, dating to around the time she died, including several that form a distinctive V shape. So what you'd have to do then is patina, looking to see if there's layers of patina, and you date those layers of patina as they're formed, or you might get calcite layers. So obviously that's why we get dating. It's not exactly there, is it? Possibly meant to represent a female pubic triangle and to indicate that a woman had been buried nearby, or it could actually mean anything. You could speculate that the block may have been a marker of her grave. The researchers are unsure why such apparent effort was expended on the Red Lady after her death. Whoever she was given special treatment that was different from the norm. We don't know what the Magdalenians normally did with their bodies, but by and large, they were not burying them. But then again, you know my thoughts on that. There's very little in the way of human remains actually surviving because of the glacial movement anyway. They could have buried them all, but we don't know. And actually, one thing to actually, oh, there's Hawass there. There we go. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see if we can see an image of the stained bones. So that's how she was lying. So we got that. That's how she was lying. No staining on that one. That is, that's the best we're going to get. That's the staining on the bone. So it's obviously got into the bone. Remember my thoughts about this. If you've got bones that are stained, it basically means that the body was already defleshed before the bones were stained. Because if it was a layer above the flesh, it would have sort of denuded, all those different types of ideas. But I'm glad we did that today. Okay, many thanks for that. And then that might link us nicely into Otzi the Iceman. Thank you for those contributions today. So Otzi the Iceman, let's just go to our images, and I have decided that we're gonna round up Otzi today. but what we want we're gonna wind up Otzi today, and I'm showing you gorse flowers because I collect gorse, and we've had an order recently from a distillery in Cumbria, of all places, wanting our gorse because apparently your gorse isn't out yet. I don't know if that's right or wrong. So here we go. Let's start with this. Now, I decided that today's lecture today about Otzi the Iceman we'll take three bits, right? So I've got to make sure that I've got this here. And the 3 bits are as follows. So if I can give you a little bit of a thing about this. So we're going to be looking, the first bit is Otzi's bowstring and the oldest hunting equipment. That's the first one we're going to do today. So we've got all these images here. And obviously the clothing and stuff, right? So the next one is going to be looking at his ragtag wardrobe, and then thinking, well, why is it the first image that we saw of Otzi the Iceman was that numpty reconstruction, which is completely wrong? Why did they show that reconstruction? I don't know. I'm so frustrated with that. And then what we then do, we've got 13 facts about Otzi the Iceman. Some of the stuff is going to be repetitive, some of the stuff we're not going to know, and some of the stuff is going to be new all over. So I didn't want to continue doing the way I had done Otzi the Iceman because that had burnt itself out. And what I mean by that, I had sort of done lots of facts, and I thought, right, that was enough. And I've wanted to do it Otzi the Iceman this way. So this is how we're going to do it. So and obviously what we've got is the next bit. You know, these facts. You know, we've got there's Otzi. And there he is. No, that's a reconstruction, but a pretty good reconstruction, I may add, right? Or maybe he was auditioning, right, for one of those silent movies. You know, he was auditioning to be a vampire. Shut up, Carl. Right. Okay. So let's just move on. We've got a few images to look at today, which is good. We've got some nice ones, and sort of taken from a few different articles, and this is this. So I wanted to start off with looking at Otzi the Iceman in way of this one, and that's what we're going to do, right? So I can put that off now, and this is a nice little piece, and this was published just before 2020, so this isn't too far out. So it goes to start off with Otzi's bowstring and the oldest hunting equipment from the Neolithic. Now, when we've got that title, you guys are thinking, hang on a minute, Otzi the Iceman had copper with him, right? He's got copper traces in his hair. You know, they were working copper. Right, he had a copper axe, right? So for us, if we want to just explain this a little bit for a moment, I think that statement that, you know, let's not have dates and let's just try and not have titles and let's just examine this for what it is in the past, right? You know, over 5,000 years ago. And obviously whether we've got the Neolithic and they haven't on the continent, this is the same time that we're sort of in Britain. We've got our causewayed enclosures we've henge monuments and so on. On the continent, they've got their villages alongside lakes, and in North America they're doing something completely different, and in China they've got villages and all these different types of things, but it's all the same time. All these things are happening at the same time, and I think what Peter said earlier on about people being isolated, and people may have been isolated on one island and they may have been doing other things on another island, but they're still existing on a contemporary plane. Swiss researchers are astounded to have identified Otzi's bowstring, even though the Iceman had still been working on his bow. He carried a finished twisted string in his quiver. And that's what those things are in the middle. That is the twisted string. That was the mystery object that I've been trying to find for the past few weeks. It was they found it at the bottom of the quiver. It was there for ages. They didn't know it was there, and they looked and they found it. So the twisted string in his quiver, which was made of animal fibers and not of lime tree bast. So in other words, basically, we're not looking at, working the sort of lime wood or and making it soft and supple to be sort of get that elasticity. The object that they've got there, it is elastic, extremely resilient, and is therefore ideal as a bowstring. As an extensive research project was carried out by the Swiss National Science Foundation, which examined materials of Neolithic bows and arrows in detail for the first time. These were then compared to Otzi's equipment. So one of the things that I would say when we think about Otzi and being quite dramatic, is that so much was said about Otzi that was either right or wrong at the beginning. And this last bit of the Otzi story that we're going to do today, and I will say it's not everything about Otzi today. I want you guys to go out and look a little bit more about Otzi. Don't just hover on the Wikipedia page, because it'll just be too much information. Go out there and say new things. Just type in Otzi the Iceman discoveries and stuff, and you might get other bits that we've missed out over the past 3 sessions in regards to Otzi. So there's lots we can do and think about Otzi. The point I would like to make is the statements that were made about Otzi beginning and the absolute abortion that was made in regards to finding him, i.e., this is just a mountain climber who died last week. We'll hacker him with axes and we'll rip him out. We'll accidentally defile him and all the bloody rest of it, right? And then thinking, if we'd have known it was human remains from the Neolithic period, we'd have treated it differently. And unfortunately, that then clouded people's judgment with Otzi, and they come up with all sorts of strange things and statements, such as Otzi was hunted up into this area and he was killed, or all these different things. So things become set. It's a bit like did you know that Harold II was not killed on the 14th of October 1066 by an arrow through his eye? He was actually killed by an axe. But that's another lecture. But people's idea of King Harold being killed by an arrow through his eye has stuck ever since. So I think when we're thinking about Otzi, what we've got to do, we've got to try and, by the way, that's his fire lighting kit on the sort of those weird things, number 12. I think what we've got to do with Otzi is to sort of open our minds a little bit. And while arrows and arrowheads are relatively common finds worldwide, complete sets of hunting equipment consisting of bows, arrows, and sometimes even quivers are extremely rare and are only known from glacial finds of the Alpine Arc. And I may remind you, Andy, I think Peter, myself, and Margaret, when we went to the military museum, the Vindelander Military Museum. Can you remember that they had Roman military helmets, and they had the hair sort of the hair crest, right? And none of them have really been found, except for the 1 or 2 examples that we've got there. And it's very rare to actually get complete things like these bow sets, like those sort of Roman helmets, for example. In Europe, there have only been 3 instances of bowstrings being preserved. Well, There you go. Otzi's one of them. Combining previous finds of bows and arrows discovered across all of Europe with the most recent comparisons from Switzerland, Bronze Age finds, it has now been possible to examine the material, size, and construction techniques of prehistoric hunting equipment in detail for the first time. And I know, for example, I've got friends that are archers, and they love this type of thing. But lots of people have been doing archery over the years, have been assuming on very little evidence. And it's good that we've got this from Otzi. But I would like to give you a word of warning about Otzi. Basing basically everything that we know from the Neolithic on one individual and ignoring everything else is not a good idea. Otzi is not the stereotypical individual from the Neolithic period. Just like that point that was made earlier on when we looked at El Miron, Canterbury, when we looked at the Red Lady, i.e., that statement, we don't really know what happened to people from the Magdalenian period 18,000 years ago. They probably didn't bury them. Well, that's absolute rubbish, because we can't really make that statement fit anyway, based on one set of human remains. So it's interesting that what they've done is experts have come together from Germany, Switzerland, and they've obtained microscopic fiber samples from Otzi's bowstring for their comparative study. The problem is when you're going out collecting samples from something so special, those samples have got to be very, very small. I'm going to tell you something very strange that you're going to think, why has he even mentioned it? My brother has actually got a lock of Elvis Presley's hair, right? It cost him £4,000. When I examined the lock of Elvis Presley's hair, it was a single strand, right? That's all we've really got in regards back to this as inference. When you're going to take a sample away, you've got to make sure that what the sample that you are taking away is actually fiber that was from the bowstring, because you can't take much more away from it than that. It might look a lot, but if you've got all these labs who are examining the evidence, then unfortunately the evidence gets less and less and less. And if, for example, they had done the work at the Otzi site properly, I know I've taken the PISS a lot over the way it was found, but on a serious nature, a lot more could have been done properly, and this is in the modern era. So if anybody like Otzi was ever found again, it would be a complete forensic operation, and no stops would be put in place. Prehistoric bowstrings are among the rarest of all finds in archaeological excavations because it's organic. It decays, it disappears. The cord contained in Otzi's quiver may be the oldest preserved bowstring in the world. We know we've got them from ancient Egypt. It has a diameter of 4 millimeters and is comprised of 3 strands, which are very uniformly and finely twisted. The Swiss study was able to prove that leg sinews of an indeterminate species were processed as fibers, and the cord was therefore particularly well suited for use as a bowstring. So sinews, I would probably go with goat rather than sheep. The cord, because I think goats have a little bit more action with their limbs wise rather than sheep, maybe. Anyway, the cord measures almost 2 meters, 2 meters, 2 meters of cord. Well, that would be enough for a long bow, right? But maybe you only needed one length. Don't know. The cord measures almost 2 meters and would have been long enough for Otzi's unfinished bow, or may have been a lot left over. We don't really know. We don't really know how this is working, because he never got to the final. He never got to the final object, did he? If stretched out, the elastic string would only measure about 2.3 millimeters in diameter. So as it stretched, the diameter gets thinner as it stretched, which would have fitted perfectly in the notches on the arrows in Otzi's quiver. That's what we can see there. We can see the arrows there. And you can see the notches there. You can actually see the notches. They're actually quite long notches, actually. They really are. They're quite long notches for those that know what I'm talking about with bows and arrows. The iceman had wound the cord bundle into an S shape and tied a knot at one end. Well, there it is. And there it is. You got the knot there. That knot was tied by Otzi. It's like the type of thing you'd get in a sort of an ironmonger's, isn't it? To sort of line out your garden, really. Another bundle made of animal leg sinews found in the quiver was possibly meant to be used as replacement material for another bowstring. So that's the one there on the left. That's there on the left. Or maybe there's three, isn't there? There's three. Otzi's 1.83 meter long unfinished bow made of yew. If that was the final length, this is what I'm talking about. He may have wanted to create a smaller bow, right? He never completed it, or maybe it was a long bow requiring all 2 meters. We don't really know. Made of yew, made of common European yew, Taxus bracata. I know it very well. Gave a unique, informative glimpse into how Neolithic bows were manufactured. If it's a full bow that he was using, i.e. the 1.83 meter long, or the 2 meter long, or the 1.85 meters, or whatever he was using, that's exactly the same type of longbow that was used at Agincourt and Cressy, for example. 1415 and 1346 respectively. The bow was first freshly cut from a 10 centimeter thick yew tree. He had already made good progress with his work, but the bow probably needed to be shortened and thinned. That's my point. The best shooting results are obtained when the bow approximately corresponds to the height of the archer. So was he looking for a long bow, the height of his actual being? For Otzi, that would have been approximately 1.6 meters. The investigation was able to establish that Otzi's bow had been worked with a hatchet from both directions. Whether this had been done by Otzi himself cannot be determined. Now, this is an interesting point, isn't it? This is an interesting point. Was there somebody else helping him? Was there somebody else involved in all this? Did he create all this material? Did he trade any of it? This is all his own possessions. Did he grab it? What's happening? What is going on with Otzi? All these questions, we're not going to answer them today. So the question of how to work the ends of the bow to fasten the string also remains open. It's said by one of the experts proposed the hypothesis that Otzi could have purchased the rough bow on the way, which would possibly explain why he had an unfinished bow with him in the high mountains. That's an interesting point. So he purchased the bow on the way. So where's the theory that he was being traced out of his own village? And some, all the stuff that makes you ask questions. Even the iceman's quiver is the only known Neolithic carry case for arrows. It is 86 centimeters long and stitched from doe skin. Rupicapara, so doe skin. So that's common deer, is it? Have I got the translation right there? One side of the quiver is reinforced with hazel wood stick. At the upper end of the quiver, a flap of stiffened leather protected the arrows carried within. If required, it could be opened very quickly and an arrow could be pulled out with a single motion of the arm. The question is, right, before we go on to the next bit, we'll answer it in the next bit. The question is, did he have another bow? Did he have two bows? One that he was working on and another that was lost? And why did he already have a kit of material that he could use? Questions. The quiver interior held 14 arrows, 2 of which were ready to fire and complete with arrowheads and fletchings. But he didn't have a bow that was ready. They represented the best preserved examples of Neolithic arrow production in Europe. Neolithic arrows were most often made from branches of suitable bushes like hazel, or, as with Otzi, the branches of the wayfaring tree. Not a variety that I would know anything about. 3 feather halves, were attached to the end of Otzi's arrows with birch tar glue and bound with thin nettle fibers. Well, that's not different from today, from people reconstructing people who fire long bows today. You know, is nothing changed. No, the technology hasn't changed in 5,000 years. That's interesting. 5,000 years, the same object as a longbow. If we're going to think that it was a longbow, yeah, we'll put that in there now. That's used throughout history. They represent the only preserved fletchings in Europe. The 3-part radially placed fletchings for stabilizing the arrow during flight has remained virtually unchanged since the Neolithic. I love that point. We're loving this. We're loving how an object and something so familiar to somebody in the medieval period, or so familiar to people still in other parts of the world, this is still the same type of thing used today in maybe Borneo and in some parts of Africa. Not necessarily a longbow, but you know, this is the same quiver, the same kit, the same arrows, the same type of string, everything. Nothing's changed. The flame fletching, the way it's all put together, we're loving that. So that's part 1 of the story of Otzi. We've now got to do part 2. Any questions on this? We can no doubt we can no doubt do that in the next bit. Right, if anyone's got anything else they want to ask now, they may do so. But if no, everyone's okay, then we'll just keep going. Let's keep the fascinating let's keep this fascinating thing going.
What were the
now
Carl,
go on, Andy.
What were the arrowheads made of? I can see there's one in that picture there. It looks possibly like stone, but
no, that's not an arrowhead. It's a dagger.
No, and the 14 there's one of them's got a head on it.
Ah, yes, it does. It does. Hang on a minute. If we go back
possibly
a bit.
like flint. I was just curious as to whether he'd used copper or flint.
No, it wasn't copper. No, it wasn't copper. The only copper
none of those
found,
do they?
Yeah, they haven't got them on it.
That's interesting. Maybe they've just simulated that one then. Thanks.
No, I'm glad you asked that, because it's not a question that if you look at the image, if you look at the other image, you can actually see the fletchings on it, or what's left of them with the glue.
It's going to have to be a small arrowhead, isn't it? Because they're very fine arrows.
They are very fine arrows, but they're easy to carry.
Yeah.
And actually, Andy, I don't know if you've offloaded one of these arrows, but the fiberglass examples are practically exactly the same as these.
Yeah. Not for many years, but yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, yeah, exactly. I can see what you're saying there, but as comparison, nothing's really changed except for the materials. Oh, Andy, you is still used for the bow.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. Yeah.
So, arrows were pointed depending upon what they were used for. They were used for animals, and the shape of the point would be with a flatness in one direction. If for war against people, it was shaped in the other direction.
Yeah.
And also,
so to go between the ribs, that was could go between the ribs of an animal which was horizontal, or a human who was erect.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is you had rigging bodkins as well that were shaped in an inverted way. So you would have like instead of being tapered, it spaniels out, and you've got a flat edge. So as that's fired, as that's let loose, not fire, because that's another order. That would cut through the rigging. So yeah, Peter's right. Different bodkins for different purposes. Very, very right there, Peter.
War arrows or hunting arrows.
Yeah, loads of different arrows. There's a whole lecture.
Yeah. So
DNA traces origins of Iceman's ragtag wardrobe. Now, when we again, it's like interpretation of Otzi. It's like, oh, he looked like this, and he didn't look like this, and they didn't put clothing on him, and yeah, he was wearing clothing, right? Ridiculous to even think that he wasn't wearing clothing, and looking at reconstruction images without clothing, it's really ridiculous. But there we go. We've got he had shoes on the left. He had this top, as you can see there. He had a cape as well. He had a hat. He had leggings. This guy was relatively warm. He was equipped. And I got to be honest with you, I know we've taken a mickey out of it, but the BG brothers, Otzi the Iceman had better footwear than the BG brothers that we got from those other images that we've seen before. The DNA analysis of Otzi the Iceman's clothing has traced their origin to at least 5 different species of animal. And actually, the article I'm reading now spells Otzi the Iceman in a way that it's spelled Oetzi. Oetzi. I don't know if that's a spelling mistake, but I'm not. Yeah, no, it's not a spelling mistake, because it's throughout the entire article. So we've got 5 different animals representing the wardrobe of Otzi the Iceman.
On the left, Carl. Looks like a little skirt or something.
Do you know what? Right, I was hoping nobody had asked that.
It's the only bit I can't work out.
It's the only thing I can't work out as well. I really wish you'd have asked that one. I wanted to gloss that one over.
We can pretend it never happened if you want.
It didn't happen. We don't know. And that's your research. That's your research. But then again, if we look at I'm not happy with this image. If we look at right, I think if I put this together, it's more to do with the leggings, because what you've got,
his legs, top of his legs.
Yeah, it might be. I think so. Right. So okay, if we go, right. Yeah, this stupid reconstruction. So we can ignore the 2 parts of his clothing for the top part of his body. I'm gonna have to go with that. That's got to be something to do with his leggings. Oh no!
It's a bag.
No, it's got to be for his arms.
Oh, is it?
Because if you go with the reconstructions, yeah, his arms are covered.
He was
his arms are covered.
He was carrying a pannier on his back.
Well, yes, he was carrying some. He was carrying some with all the bits and bobs, as well as his quiver as well. So we've got lots of things that he was carrying. In future, Peter, keep your thoughts to yourself. So among his kit were a hat of. Oh, hang on a minute. Now you've thrown me. Now, you silly man. Right. Okay. Let's go with this one. Oh, that thing on the left, it's not there, right? Among his kit were a hat of brown bearskin and a quiver made from roe deer, which we've already examined. Despite being well preserved and studied, the 5,300-year-old old mummy's various leather items had not all been identified at the species level. And this is the thing, there's more stuff being learned about Otzi the Iceman even today. And I don't think what you can do with archaeology is stop researching. And one thing, this is the point I've been making week after week after week, right? The point being that you do an archaeological excavation and you can keep learning and you can keep learning. You can keep looking at the boxes, and I don't think it should be a closed school for learning. And this is the same with somebody like Otzi the Iceman. So the new findings, these come from 2016, looking at the items that you're looking at there. So obviously ignore the one in the middle because that's made of grasses. But so what we've got, we've got reveal a mix of wild hunted animals with sheep, goat, and cattle related to domestic breeds in with the mix of material used. It looks quite patchy, and bear skin for the hat. You know, if you look at that even does look like bear skin, to be honest with you. That does look like bear. I don't know why it looks like bear, but it looks like bear to me. The researchers say this points to Copper Age people choosing carefully between different wild and domestic animals when looking for materials to make their clothes. So are we saying that they deliberately butchered some animals for the use of their wardrobe? And that would actually make quite useful sense, because if you've hunted an animal, the last thing you want is to have clothing with loads of holes in it, because you've been firing arrows at an animal and there's holes everywhere. You'll only have to stitch them up. So I think when in regards to the clothing, it needs to be whatever animals are used need to be hunted in a way that doesn't damage the skin. Otzi's motley wardrobe, so if we go there, included a coat made from at least 4 separate goat and sheep hides, which is that one there. And actually, you can clearly see it's quite different shades and colors. Could also suggest a more haphazard and desperate approach, stitching together whatever scraps of skin were available. I'm not gonna agree with that, because, you know, some clothing today you stitch things together, don't you? And I wouldn't make that as a criticism of his wardrobe.
The yarn used for stitching could well be from the stalks of nettles. Nettles are used to make cords and ropes, and of quite considerable strength.
And also, whilst Peter says that as well, he's very right about the use of nettle. But you can also, we've actually got, we've got one of the only surviving from 1840 gorse mills anywhere on the planet. We actually own it, and gorse milling was massive in the 1840s, 1860s, and basically, as Peter said, you can get strands out. And anyone ever coming down to West Wales can see our gorse grinder. You can use it. It's still operational. And we've got a plaque on it that tells us where precisely it was made down the road. And yeah, and Peter's right. You can make threads from anything, basically anything organic. So yeah, good. So what we know is all of this clarifies what we already knew, that the Iceman was an agro-pastorist. Well, basically, an agro-pastorist is somebody that's very much into getting the best out of the animals around him. That the majority of the food and resources that he used were of domestic origin, and it's very much said that what we do find with the great studies into this, they're experimenting and trying to understand how this wardrobe went together. We're also what they're also thinking about as well, and this is in the last bit about Otzi today, will be to one of the last facts is about the last meal that he ate. And this next point here, this is a statement from the archaeologist Niall O'Sullivan from the University of Dublin. He says, but we also know from earlier experiments that he supplemented his living with food from wild sources. His last meal was composed of ibex and red deer. So obviously the idea of mixing wild with domestic is goes without saying. I don't think that's unusual, but we can see that in his diet as well. And why not? You know, you've got a wild hare or rabbit there, then or ibex or deer, and that's fine. That goes without saying. But obviously you're going to use those skins, and that's going to be very, very valuable to you. It's also said that the study shows that as well as for food, for the manufacturing of leather, he also used both wild and domestic animals. Listen, we've got a little bit of a list here, so we're gonna do this, right? And what I'm gonna do is let my notes tell me I've got to show you this image. So, all right, I'm not going to be influenced by this, but it gives you an idea of the fact that all the clothing seems to protect him quite well. I think the only thing missing is mittens, isn't it? Or gloves or something. His body is completely covered. The iceman's belongings that the team pinpointed were, right, so here we go. And what we're going to do, we're going to read from this. We're going to read from this back to what we're looking at here, right? So leggings were made from goat skin, right? So those leggings were made from goat skin, right? It then goes to say a shoelace of cow leather. So that's when the shoes come in. And actually, I'm reminded of very similar shoe designs. And I know you're going to think I'm a bit nuts for saying this. And that's the inner liner for the shoe. Very similar shoe designs to some of the designs that we see at Vindolanda with the Roman legionaries. I know that looks crude, but then again, some of the stuff from Vindolanda is crude as well. So what we've got is, it actually says, that can't be the loincloth, can it? It says a sheep leather loincloth. Could that be a loincloth on the left?
Yeah, I think it covers his middle and the top of his legs.
Okay, okay.
Loincloth, it's in my book.
It is. Why didn't you tell us? Why did you make a big fool of me if it's a loincloth?
There's a whole section about it in here.
Karl, it's a loincloth.
It's a loincloth.
Oh, no, go away, all of you. Right. So that on the left, by the way, Adam, I'm glad you asked that question about the item on the left. I can identify it as a loincloth. And it's a sheep leather loincloth on the left. I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm glad I knew the answer to it, Adam. A quiver made of roe deer. So there we go, quiver made of roe deer. Always remember to read this stuff thoroughly next time. A fur hat with straps made from brown bear, right? So there we go. That's the hat, right? So we got the hat there, and a coat of many fragments incorporating both sheep and goat skin, but it's not actually telling us what that material is, because that's definitely not leather, but that there is. right? So that's a coat of many fragments incorporating both sheep and goat skin, right? So it goes on to say that these various leathers were all identified based on mitochondrial DNA. The separate, smaller genome found in the tiny compartments that turn food into energy inside living cells. If you didn't know that. Now, the reason why we've got this image here is that my notes then say, with an E, Otzi, O-E-T-Z-I, is believed to have met a violent end because a flint arrowhead was found in his shoulder. But then the flint arrowhead was only found in the shoulder a little bit after they started examining the body. And even then they said the person was killed before they'd even found the evidence. So, you know, people want the guy to be butchered and set upon. The question is, right, the question is, guys, right, I'm gonna say it, yeah? If Otzi was murdered or killed, why was he left with every single possession that he had? I would have taken it. I would have taken his quiver. I'd have taken his longbow. I would have taken his axe. I would have taken the top he was wearing. I'd have taken the leather hat. I would have looted the body, right? Because all of these things are resources that you know. This murder thing, right? You can make up your own mind, right? When Otzi was discovered in September 1991, and as we know, is it the 19th of September? Famously well preserved. Well, he was well preserved before the numpties found him in the ice of the Italian Alps. This type of ancient DNA analysis was impossible. So you know, analyzing the types of material that the guy is wearing: leggings from a goat skin, a shoelace of cow leather, a sheep leather loincloth, a quiver made of roe deer, fur hat and brown bear, sheep and goat skin, you know, is sort of coat. So 25 years ago, the study of ancient DNA was in its infancy, Mr. Niall O'Sullivan says. It would not have been possible to infer to the same extent the species of origin or how domesticated the leathers were. Now, I'm pretty sure you can actually look on a microscopic cellular level, the differences in leathers, but that's just me. Even today, he and his colleagues were surprised by how much they were able to learn, and they're going to learn more. They will learn more. What they will also learn more is whether the sheep were actually you, or whether they or whether when you look at a goat, whether it came from a billy, right? Whether it came from a lamb. We've got all that technology now, so I would have liked this to have gone a bit further. Actually, we analysed 9 samples, and for each one, we were able to reconstruct either a whole mitogenome or a partial mitogenome. We were very happy with that. I'm very happy with what I've just told you. We know that this guy was very, very active in his world. Now, I don't want anybody to answer this question now. I want us to do the last bit after the break. And I don't want to talk about how he died, right? I want to go through it all, right? And Adam is our detective. Adam is going to work out whether he was murdered or not, right? That's your home. That by the end of by the last hour, right, Adam, that is your homework, right? And we're not going to ask Peter because Peter's already made up his mind because he's always biased, and so is the other Peter, right? Andy, I'm going to ask you as well how he died at the end, but we're not going to say it now. So what we're going to do now?
Right, arrow in the shoulder would never have killed him.
Shut up, Pete. But Pete, don't give in. You can't influence Adam. Stop it, Pete. He's always a spoil sport, you know. No, it wouldn't have killed him at all. It did not kill him. He could have lived with it. So, oh, there's me, Peter. We hate you. Oh, we love you, really, Pete. We do. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to ask if there's any questions now, and then after the break, we've got some really, oh, hang on a minute. Oh, it's all gone to pot. We got some really nice images that we'll do after the break, and you know, we've got You know, we got his fire making kit. You know, we got, doesn't he look at, oh God. He looks like he's been on the Raz, to be honest. He really does. There he is. He's still got an arrow in his back. Right, all right then. Yeah, there we go. And we're going to look at this. We've got some nice stuff. You know, that's his fire making kit on the right there. That's the birch bark there. So if you don't say anything about the birch bark, that's the birch bark for making a fire. The thing is, right, he had everything with him to keep him alive, but he died. Right. And he had everything with him to keep him alive, right? And if that was the case and he was murdered, why didn't they take it? Surely the quiver would have been the first thing to go. Anyway, all these questions. Oh God, I'm giving too much away. We've got the tattoos and stuff. Anyway, so what we're going to do, I want us to, actually what I want us to do as well. I want, we're going to do a little bit of an article of the week before we start with Otzi after the break anyway. So we're not going to do that now. And we're going to stop the sharing now. So that's it. So what we're going to do now is ask David, has he got any questions before he wants to put the kettle on?
Oh, thank you.
Go on, put the kettle on, David. Right, okay. Adam, go on, put the kettle on, Adam. Go on. Go on, Adam. Anything you want to say, Adam? You can say it now. Adam, are you up for the challenge? Are you up for the challenge? We can't even hear Adam. Adam, do you want some of my nuts? You can have some of my nuts. Adam, get your... You can't hear him. Can you hear my turkey? Hang on a minute. Hang on. Like I said. Audrey, you! Right, okay. Oh, we can't hear Adam. Adam, we can't hear you. You're no bloody good as an investigating agent.
Oh,
we can hear him.
hey.
Adam.
Hello. Yes.
No,
yes, I'm up for the challenge. Yeah.
Right. You can't say anything now, but based on this, right, Anne's going to go and say to her mates, this is how Otzi died, right? So it's all on you in an hour, right? So if you screw up, right, this is what Anne's going to be telling her friends tomorrow, right? So it's on you. Right. Okay. Peter, anything you want to say?
Not really. It's just that he could have lived on for some time and then died much later, and not from any particular injuries.
Yeah, but now you're influencing Adam. Shut up. Right. Peter, you said that without moving your lips. Go on, Pete.
No, I don't think so. I think that's all very. Oh, are we going to look at his mushrooms after the break?
Oh God. We right. Okay. I'm going to see if I've got mushrooms in the list because there was so much about Otzi. Hang on a minute. Hang on.
It's part. Well, one of them was part of his fire making kit. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Bracket fungus. Oh, hang on. We said that at the same time without you moving your lips. Right. I'm just going to see if because I wanted to do his fire. I wanted to do his fire kit. Oh God. Right. Okay. Yeah, what I might do is I was going to avoid doing his fire making kit, but I might actually.
We can forget that happened as well if you want.
No, we can't. We can't. Well, we've got whipworm in this, so you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to. I did start putting the fire making kit in, but I dropped it. I think I dropped it because it. For you, I got to put it in. I got to have to get that sorted. You ruined my life, right? And Andy's ruined my life as usual every single week, right? Right, okay. I got to write down fire making kit whilst I'm making myself a cup of tea, and I got to put. Hang on, listen to Baldrick again. Baldrick, say good night. You. Right, you said good night now. Margaret, anything you want to say?
Well, I've got an unfair advantage because I've got a book all about it, and I don't want to spoil things by telling you everything.
I'll ring you up in the break.
But the cloak that he wore was made of woven grasses.
What type of woven grasses? Have you got the type?
Hang on. Well, they were very long pieces of grass. I've lost the page now.
Oh, tell me now.
It's a big book, and it was. I could tell you loads of things that's in here, but it would be unfair.
Yeah, it would, because it would muck Adam's thinking up. Don't influence Adam.
It tells you about everything.
Look, okay, fair enough. You've laboured your point long enough, Margaret. Right, okay. Adam and Pat, anything you want to say? Andy and Pat.
No, not me.
Yeah, you've got a female voice now, Andy. Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Been practicing. Yeah.
Right,
No.
right. Anne, are you waiting for the verdict at the end, Anne? And it's you, everything that Adam comes up with, you've got to tell your friends tomorrow.
Right, I will do. I've been very, very interested in this. I'm always interested in technology, particularly. It's a history for technology, and there's so much in this lecture about the technology he was using to do his hunting. I think it's amazing, absolutely great. Thank you.
Actually, I'm glad you said that, because on the next bit, it does talk. We do talk about technology, and the other thing as well is, as you can tell, it's completely impossible unless you've spent weeks and weeks on Otzi with my grey areas, which I've clearly demonstrated today.
And of course, I've missed some of it. I've missed 2 lectures, so I missed some of it, and I'm really disappointed that I did. I'll have to. I can find them on Zoom probably, because I was finding some of your previous lectures. Yeah,
they are on Zoom. They are
on YouTube. Zoom. I mean YouTube, not Zoom. I get
no, YouTube. I don't even know what I'm talking about now. Andy says something, right? He says the right answer, and I also say the wrong answer. It's Andy's interfering with my head.
Yep.
All I'll say is he was not a well man.
Oh, for God's sake, shut up!
we know that he's dead.
Yeah, but
yeah, exactly.
X-rays, and he was not a well man.
No.
Oh, great! Why didn't you just tell Adam? Well, Adam's gonna,
No.
Oh God!
I'm going home.
I'll say now. That's it. I could tell you loads, but I'm saying nothing.
Later.
I'll
let you have this book, Andy. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds it. Yeah.
Do you know what we're going to do? This is revenge on Margaret, right? Margaret, right? You've got to pre-guess.
Shall I just go?
Oh, shut up, Margaret. You've got to pre-guess one fact, right, that we're not going to be doing and we haven't done in the other 2 previous lectures. You've got to find one fact that we haven't done, right? And that is going to be the last fact anyone gives tonight.
I can tell you a funny one.
Oh, go on. I want a break.
Somebody suggested they make him an ancient monument because of his tattoos. They said it could be considered art.
Well, it is, but he's also dead. Yeah.
So it could be listed as an ancient monument.
What a shame.
Muhammad Ali was a good boxer, but you know what I mean. You're going to chuck him up as a monument as well. Oh, I'll tell you what we'll do. I know who would make a good monument. Margaret Thatcher. She was the Iron Lady. She was made of iron.
Yeah. She got a bit rusty, but yeah.
And, a bit dirty with eggs and things thrown at her, didn't she?
Yeah. So you could also this will really wind everybody up, right? We'll dig up Reinhard Heydrich, right? Who was assassinated by Czech partisans, right? We'll dig him up, and he was said he was the Iron Man as well. So we'll have Margaret Thatcher and Reinhard Heydrich as statues alongside Otzi the Iceman. Be great. We'll have a full exhibition. Right, okay, folks, we're having a break now. Shut up. I got to find this thing on the fire. That bloody Peter, I wish he'd shut up. He's ruined my lecture today. Ruined it. Probably ruined it. Right, okay, I'll be back. I'm going to go and put the kettle on. I've got to put Baldrick to sleep. All right, hang on. Baldrick. Right, what time is it now? It's 9:08. So anyone watching online, it's 9:08. We're going to have a quick break. Put a kettle on now. Now. Oh, God. Do you know, last week I taught this lecture in my pants. Mind you, it's not as bad as the lecture that Pete was Peter was lecturing in his pants, and he got up and we could see everything. It was terrible. Right, okay, I guess you really wanted to know that. Right, I don't even know what I'm doing. Right, let's have a torch. I've got to get Baldrick. Hang on a minute.
You're taking my name in vain again.
Shut up, Pete. Right, okay. Are you bragging, Pete? I was just talking about your lecture malfunction the other week, Peter, where you got up and we saw something. Ruth has never recovered from that, Pete.
Well, there you go.
Where's my bloody torch? Outside without a torch. Torch.
Just because I'm sitting in my boxers, you can't. It's more comfortable that way.
What's going all that way? What?
Yeah, Pete. Where's me?
Pete's there. Who's Pete? What Pete you on about?
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah.
Proper cake.
Oh, you got cake?
Oh, yes. You not see it?
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Looks
Let me
very
have a look at
tasty.
the cake.
Proper cake. Birthday cake.
Oh my God! I hate you. I really do.
And I'm going to eat it all.
I hate you.
Well, not right now, but
No candles on it.
Oh my God. Oh, here's my torch. No, okay, but what? Oh God, I'm trying to find a bloody torch that works. None of these works. Why doesn't it work? Oh, get back. Let me take you. Oh, no. Please go on. Let me on. Oh, it's all going wrong. It's all going wrong. It's ruined my life. I can't handle this anymore. You leave me now. You take away the greatest part of me. I can't get any of these blooming torches to work. What a blooming thing in it. Go on, oh God, I've got to find that thing about his lighter kit. Oh no. God, it's all going wrong. It's all going wrong. Can't do that. I think I'm going to have to do that. Right. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Right, okay.
Andy, if you ever want to take some of these books, just come along and knock on the door. It seems a shame that I've got all of them.
yeah, no, that's nice. Thank you. I might come and have a look at some of them because I'm just finishing off one at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'll drop off this one. You'll enjoy it. It's a very good read.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. I've always been quite interested in Otzi. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. And not that old, actually. Some of the books in there were written in the 90s and as late as the 2000s. So they're not old. This was 94. And I think that was when they found him.
Yeah,
91 he was found.
Yeah, it's pretty soon after.
Yeah. We're going to have to get them down to Karl at some point.
Well, there is a plan in the offing.
Is there?
Actually, you'll be surprised of how things are coming on with our doodah in Barry.
Whereabouts do you put them? Have you got a museum, did you say?
Yeah, it is actually coming on. It's looking pretty good. So.
Oh, good.
So I'm sorry, I'm multitasking here. I'm looking at a naked image of Kylie Minogue, and I'm also trying to listen to you, and I'm also trying to do the research for this fire thingamajig. I just give you too much information. I think I did.
I wonder
right, okay.
Kylie Minogue must be getting on a bit now.
56.
Yeah. God.
Do you know, I actually wrote a letter to her asking if she'd marry me. I actually did have a reply from the fan club saying lots of other people had the same idea. So Kylie Minogue wanted to write to me saying that she can't marry me. I had a letter off her. But mind you, it was a standard letter that that was sent to all these people. Even Adam asked her to marry him.
You've been married too many times.
How many times do you think I've been married, eh?
4, 5?
4? Really?
I haven't been married.
My mother was married 4 times.
I tell you what, people get the wrong impression of me. They you know, they think I'm a bloody nymphomaniac. You know, I got put off women when I stayed with Claire. Because you know, she forced me into her into her basement to look at the orangutan, and I haven't been right since.
Michelle's a girl for you. She'll keep you in line.
Who's that? Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to bloody talk too much. Right. Okay. So we right. We've got a list of the bloody doodah effort for Firkins, right? So yeah, he's not going to be happy with this. I'm gonna slap him on the posterior. Right. Right. I'm just gonna have a nibble, and we're gonna crack on. No. Oh, I found a shop today, right? But that does everything. You know, they had about 50 different types of milk. They had about 50 packets of biscuits of all sorts. They had they had soil. I could post my letters there. It was cool. I asked the woman behind the counter if she'd marry me. It's a dating service as well. It was great. Right. I could find you a woman, Adam, if you want one. She's got hairs on her chin, but don't worry about that. Right. Are we ready for part 2? Oh, right. I'm just gonna finish my biscuit a minute. Sorry about this. It's really nice. I got reduced these Bell Vista soft baked breakfast chocolate chip cookies. Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, and I had about 6 or 7 different types of Welsh cakes. It was great. And the prices were really good as well.
Did they have any real food in there? Like cabbage or something?
They had cabbages, they had lettuces, they
Oh,
had
right, so they
carrots,
did have,
they had
yeah, 'cause
oranges, they had tangerines, they had. I was going to buy a melon actually, love.
Well, that sounds good. That sounds good. From what you're describing, it didn't sound like there's anything real food.
No, we had real food. Right, let's crack on. Right now, before you say it, don't speak with your mouth full, but I do anyway because I just can't be bothered. Right. So I had an email in the week. This was another one of Henry, and I'm gonna read it out. And it's a nice piece. It starts as follows. I haven't got any images, so I'm going to read it out from the phone. This is from Henry. A team of archaeologists from the universities of Chester and Manchester has made discoveries which shed new light on the communities who inhabited Britain after the end of the last ice age. So I thought that was quite appropriate. So that's what we're going to do. Now, excavations carried out by the team at a site in North Yorkshire have uncovered the exceptionally well-preserved remains of a small settlement inhabited by groups of hunter-gatherers around 10,500 years ago. Among the finds that the team recovered were the bones of animals that people hunted, tools and weapons made from bone, antler and bone, and rare traces of woodworking, amazingly enough. So it's not just on the Alps that we get bits of wood surviving. We get it up in northern England as well. The site near Scarborough originally lay on the shore of an island in an ancient lake and dates to the Mesolithic. Over thousands of years, the lake slowly filled in with thick deposits of peat, which gradually buried and preserved the site. And I think this sounds like it must be Star Car, or is it a similar site? University of Manchester said it is so rare to find material this old in such good condition. Mesolithic in Britain was before the introduction of pottery or metals. So finding organic remains like bone, antler and wood, which are usually not preserved, are incredibly important in helping us to reconstruct people's lives. Analysis of the finds is allowing the team to learn more and change what has been previously understood about these early prehistoric communities, again, up near Scarborough. The bones show that people were hunting a wide range of animals in a number of different habitats around the lake. This is similar to Otzi the Iceman, but Otzi the Iceman's coming around 5,000 years later. So people are getting a mixed diet across Europe for quite some time, including large mammals such as elk and red deer, smaller mammals such as beavers and water birds. The bodies of hunted animals were butchered and parts of them were intentionally deposited into the wetlands at the island site. The team also discovered that some of the hunting weapons made of animal bone and antler have been decorated and had been taken apart before being deposited on the island's shore. This, and they believe, shows that Mesolithic people had strict rules about how the remains of animals and objects used to kill them were disposed of. Again, interesting stuff. And this is, we'll mention, there's only a little bit more of this, but when we look at Otzi the Iceman, we think of him as almost a figure that has none of these rules, but he had all of these rules. He had a life, he had children, he probably had a wife, he probably had, obviously had a mum and a dad for him to be born, right? So this guy was living and human. So he had rules like these people had 5,000 years before him up near Scarborough. It's said as well University of Chester. People often think of prehistoric hunter-gatherers as living on the edge of starvation. We know that's not true. Moving from place to place in an endless search for food. We know that's not true. And that it was only with the introduction of farming that humans lived a more settled and stable lifestyle. But here, the evidence tells us, we have people inhabiting a rich network of sites and habitats, taking the time to decorate objects and taking care over the ways they disposed of animal remains and important artifacts. These aren't people that were struggling to survive. They were people confident in their understanding of this landscape and of the behaviors and habitats of different animals, species that lived there. Exactly the same can be said about Otzi the Iceman, with all the evidence. This guy is 5,000 years away from this, but this is the same type of guy that we're talking about. The team hopes that future research at this site and others in the area will continue to shed new light on people's relationships with the environment. Analysis of peat deposits around the site is already showing that this was an incredibly biodiverse landscape, rich in plant and animal life. And as work continues, the team hopes to find out what effects humans had on this environment. And the other thing as well is remains being found in peaty conditions. The parallel with this is obviously the Iceman being found in ice. You know, it's that sort of large pantheon of evidence that helps us understand this wonderful prehistoric world, and it's all being knitted and coming together. So right, oh God, so we'll do this about the fire starter kit, right? When I come to it. Right, so there is going to be a point, right? So right now this is going to be the last bit today. So okay, let's crack on. Margaret sent me a message earlier on. She said when I come up to Cumbria, right? She said I can sleep at her place. Thanks, Margaret. I appreciate the offer. Right, okay. Right, good. This image. Right, here we go. Let's go for it. Now, hopefully this image is going to help us. 13 cool facts about Otzi the Iceman. And this was updated in 2021. So this is a nice little list. Now, actually, somebody mentioned that earlier on, didn't they, about Otzi the Iceman being a piece of art? Well, there's a memorial to Otzi the Iceman as well. He's got his own little sort of obelisk there, where he was actually found. When hikers in the Ötztal Alps stumbled upon a body melting out of a glacier on the 19th of September 1991, they thought they had found an unfortunate mountaineer who had disappeared perhaps a couple of decades prior. But as soon as it was revealed that the mummified remains dated back to beyond 5,000 years ago, and that the man had been murdered by an arrow to the back, that's what we're told about then, researchers knew that they had to solve the most fascinating ancient forensic case ever found. Now, remember, the arrow, the evidence of the arrow in his back was found a little bit after they started examining the body. The evidence wasn't found immediately, right? So how he died initially, people didn't know, but then they came up with that assumption. Whether it's right or wrong, Adam, had to solve the most fascinating ancient forensic case ever found. Nicknamed Otzi, the Iceman, and Frozen Fritz, the body of a man who was around 40 or 50 years old when he died in the Copper Age, continues to generate new data about a past era and shows links to contemporary people. And those contemporary, when you think about the contemporaneous nature of Otzi the Iceman, we're thinking about the U-boat, aren't we? You know, again, the fire starter kit, and there he is with the last breath. Is a wonderful photograph there that's come down through history. The last breath leaving his mouth. It does look a bit like Jesus. So here we go. First things first. 2 countries fought over ownership of Otzi. Well, when you think about it, right, this is an interesting point. The concept of countries didn't exist back then. So for people to be arguing over his body thousands of years after he died, interesting. He was discovered in a part of the Alps mountain range that is right on the border between Austria and Italy. Complicating the find is the fact that the glacier in which he was entombed for millennia has shrunk since the official country border was established in 1919. So that's an interesting point. In other words, the body may have been on one side initially, and when the ice melted, what did the body move anyway? This is the thing. Had the body moved? You know, had it been moved? All these different questions. Going back to the text, this meant that although the find site of the mummy drains into Austria, the place Otzi was actually resting is about 100 meters into Italian territory. Originally, Otzi was studied at Innsbruck University in Austria, but since 1998, he has been displayed and studied at the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano, which isn't far away from where they think he actually originally lived. Now, this next point, is it a statement of intent, fact, or next fact? Otzi's death may have been recorded. What does that mean? Fact 2. In 1991, an upright carved stone was found in the town of Laches, near the Otzal Alps, where the iceman was discovered. Although the stone was reused in modern times for the altar of a church, it dates to the Copper Age, just like Otzi. One of the carvings on it depicts an archer shooting an arrow into the back of an unarmed man, which bears striking similarities to how scientists know Otzi died. The other Peter's point, remember that. This circumstantial evidence, though, has not convinced most researchers. Well, I've got to be honest with you, right? What we're going to do, right? We're going to find a photograph of a random bloke with a moustache. It basically looks like Hitler, therefore it is a photograph of Hitler. I got to be honest with you, that's probably not relevant at all. Finding a stone from a certain date. Remember, the end of the Neolithic period, Copper Age, lasted hundreds of years. It could have been anyone, right? Next fact, here we go. Now, this is where we need to go forward in the slide a little bit. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. So let's oh no, we don't have to go forward at all. It's all there, right? So basically, he was cut into by scientists, and gastrointestinal issues. He had gastrointestinal issues. That actually sounds quite nice, but it's not. When I say it's quite nice, it doesn't sound as disgusting as I'm about to tell you. Even though Otzi was comparatively old when he died, he was not exactly. Who? What? What was that?
Sorry, it's me, Carl. The cat came in.
Why don't you cuddle a cat and give it a kiss? Never mind. Even though Otzi was comparatively old when he died, he was not exactly healthy. Whipworm parasite eggs were found in his gut contents. So he probably suffered from nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. So he didn't have any of those biological yogurts then, did he? Do you know what I mean? Right, anyway, so he was a bit uncomfortable, right? That's what we can assume. He was a bit uncomfortable. That might explain why he didn't have a lot of weight or whatever, you know. His body also produced a full genome of H. pylori. And H. pylori, Pylori, is a common stomach bug responsible for ulcers and other tummy troubles. So he must have had the he must have had the bowel problems on a regular basis. There is also evidence that he had ingested a medical herb called hop hornbeam shortly before his death, possibly to help his indigestion. Now, I think, talking about what he was eating and the pain he was in, and taking something before he died, and the evidence that we've got about some of his last meals, right? That's interesting to cause of death. And one fingernail was found to have bowlines, which can be created when the immune system is compromised. Otzi's fingernail shows he was ill several times in the 4 months prior to death. Do you know what I'm going to say? It would be great if we could, there's so much stuff about Otzi, right? It would be good to get some more strontium evidence and to see if there are stress lines in his teeth indicating that he may have had a poor diet when he was a child or when he was in the womb and stuff. So that would be interesting in itself. Right. Okay. Now he had a first aid kit. Now I was looking, there's his fire kit and stuff. I think actually some of that's to do with his first aid kit as well, actually. Anyway, right. So Otzi carried a first aid kit. Here we go. Since Otzi died while going about his daily life, the artifacts found with him give us a snapshot in time. He's got quite a lot of artifacts with him, to be honest with you. And not all of them, obviously, when you've got like 8 parties visit him over that time, people are going to pick up things, aren't they? So I don't think we've got all the evidence. 2 particularly curious objects were spheres of botanical material about the size of walnuts that were strung on leather straps. Analysis of the masses indicated they were a fungus called Pitoporus petulinus. Notably, this fungus, if eaten, both causes diarrhea and can protect against mycobacteria. It is likely that Otzi was ingesting this fungus in an attempt to treat his whipworm. The diarrheal action would have helped him get rid of the parasite's eggs, while the antibiotic properties of the fungus would have killed off other intestinal bugs. Amazing that. Anne was talking about science. So we'll just read that bit again. Otzi was ingesting this fungus in an attempt to treat his whipworm. And we know that from the samples that we've got. Diarrheal action would have helped him get rid of the parasite's eggs, while the antibiotic properties of the fungus would have killed off other intestinal bugs. Fungi like this were used for medicinal purposes until the beginning of the 1900s. Now, we will look at these images again, but what we want to do now is these tattoos. Now, we've not seen this image, but we know that he's got 61 different individual tattoos. Now, each of these lines on here are individual tattoos. So most of them are shown on this image. But the mummy boasts 61 different tattoos, and they are the oldest physical evidence of tattooing in the world. While the iceman doesn't have mum tattooed on his biceps or a butterfly on his lower back, his tattoos are still quite interesting. Of course they are. They were made by scratching his skin and rubbing charcoal in the fresh wound, resulting in groups of lines or crosses. Do you know what? When I was in school, people used to bring hypodermic syringes in that they'd found off the street, right? And they used to people used to line up and have tattoos placed into their hand, right? These were hypodermics that they picked up in a back lane, and they would make tattoos, right? And they would go over it with black marker, and they would go over it with charcoal, right? So people have it's not very different from what this describing here. They were made by scratching the skin and rubbing charcoal in the fresh wound, resulting in groups of lines or crosses. So, you know, it's nothing. And this is another thing, isn't it? We do tattoos today, so nothing's changed in that, you know, nothing's changed. And when we're talking about acupuncture and all that type of stuff, you know, there we go. It has also been suggested that their placement over joints may have been an attempt to treat pain, as the oldest tattooed person ever found. Otzi holds a Guinness World Record. My God, he's in the Guinness. Well, of course he's going to be in the Guinness Book of Records, isn't he? You know? Right. Okay. Right. We know this, right? By looking at this again, right? And what I'd like to do is just remind you all of my higher wisdom, right? That on the left there is a loincloth, right? I'm glad you asked me earlier on, Peter. Long before Dolce & Gabbana dressed a dapper Italian man, Otzi was mixing materials to create his clothing. A 2016, what if his wife dressed him? Don't know. Women do dress us, right? And yeah, maybe it was a woman that dressed him. I don't know. And lots of these tattoos would have been done by somebody else. So, you know, there are other factors in all of this. A 2016 study revealed the variety of species used to make Otzi's outfit. We know that. We sheepskin, loincloth, goat hide, leggings and coat, and a hat made of skin of a brown bear. Even his accessories was diverse. Oh, hang on a minute. All the other stuff, where is it? Right, here we go. All that stuff there. His shoelaces came from wild cows and his quiver from roe deer. So there you go. Now, right, okay, the next bit, right? I think we've got most of the tools there. Where's the axe? No axe? Oh, God, where's the bloody axe? Axe. Oh, yeah, there we go. That you can see the copper axe there, but this is a reconstruction, right? That actually looks quite sexy, doesn't it? Flipping heck. Anyway, that's how they reckon it looked like anyway. Otzi's tools demonstrated the latest technology. Again, Anne's point earlier on, this is technology. Otzi's field kit held a surprising number of different tools. There was a copper-bladed axe, which is there. There's a reconstruction of a copper-bladed axe. Have I got another image of the copper-bladed axe on a minute? Did I do that? Oh, God, I didn't. Oh, God, I deliberately didn't use it. Oh, no, you stupid idiot. Okay, we'll have to go with the copper. We'll have to go with the reconstruction one anyway. There we go. What else have we got? A flint dagger. So that there. When one of you asked what that was earlier on, we did say that was dagger. So we've got the dagger there. And it's tree fiber sheath and a bow made out of a yew tree, which is that thing number 13 underneath the quiver. His quiver fashioned out of deer hide with hazel wood supports. Yeah, you can see it's supported in there. Contained 2 finished arrows and a dozen unfinished shafts. He had a net for catching rabbits and birds. Hang on a minute. Hang on. We need that. Come on. Net. Have we got that in the illustration? I don't think we do. No, we don't. Oh, that's a sheath with the axe there. Not the axe, the dagger, but we haven't got his net. Bugger. Never mind. We haven't got that there. Anyway, so we've got net for catching rabbits and birds. I think that must be that thing on the left there, isn't it? That must be part of it. As well as a marble disc with a hole in the middle for hanging or carrying dead birds. He also carried cylindrical containers made of birch bark. You can see that there. That's part of the fire kit, which we're going to talk about in a minute, which kept charcoal embers hot for hours so he could quickly make a fire. His teeth were worn, particularly on the left side, meaning he may have used his mouth to help work leather. So hang on, where's this skull? Hang on a minute, let's get to the skull and we'd go to the fire. There it is. We haven't got that. Meaning, right, here we go. The iceman's hair also revealed high levels of arsenic, suggesting he was a pro at smelting ores to make copper. Now, that's a point, right? that's a point that which is not made much of, right? The point is, if he was working copper, he would have been indispensable to the community, because very few people would have been able to work copper and to be able to turn incongruous stones into axes. So he would have been special, right? In other words, his skills, you needed his skills as part of the society. So what actually happened to him? So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little break there, a moment. And the break is, I want to go to my other text, right? Where's that? Oh God, I keep going. Oh, right, there we go. Pete's going to have an epileptic fit in a minute. Right, we're looking at them, right? Okay. And if we go to my other bit of research here, which is, where's that? Oh, hang on a minute. I hope we're still here.
Carl, is there anything on the toxicology about copper processing? Because that's quite poisonous.
Arsenic, yeah.
Yeah.
Arsenic. And all right, as in toxicology may have assisted to brain dysfunction and cause of death. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. So we chucked that in there for Adam. Right, so here we go. Right, we know about the wooden bow and all the rest of it. We know that those objects there are a fire striker or flint knife dagger with wooden handle. So hang on a minute. Hang on, stop. Right, that's the fire striker there. That's the fire striker there on the top one. The one there is a polished marble bead, which is probably nothing to do with it. But that there is the fire striker that might actually be associated with that object there. That's what they're saying. And then what we then do, we go to those objects there, right? So what we do have is that we've got it's saying that we've got birch berries, a container with charcoal lumps for lighting fires, and then we've got on the right hand side, we've got dried mushrooms, and some of the bracket fungus there could then be used to light a fire, right? I collected some bracket fungus once, and I forgot to tap it on the table before I dried it out. So I tapped it one day and all these maggots poured out. So, the best when you get bracket fungus to tap all the little critters out. But when bracket fungus goes dry, it goes very dry. And it's a perfect fuel, right, to assist in the aiding of starting a fire. So that's basically the fire starting kit, and the birch bark is essential to that. And obviously lumps of charcoal, the bracket fungus, the flint, and that object there, and obviously the flint. So obviously all of this is the paraphernalia for starting a fire. Hopefully that's answered your question, Pete. Right, next. So the other point as well is, if we go back to where I was, it says, do you think he used his axe to strike the flint or something? Yeah, well, it is my understanding that his axe was made of copper, so that would not spark. So you would have used a flint against a hard object, which is that object there, to create a fire, which is associated with the birch bark, which is associated with the bracket fungus, which is then in turn associated with any other bits and bobs and associated with the charcoal. So there we go. Oh God. Right. So then finally, right, we've got the other last points, which I need to go back to where I was. And here we go. Some more facts. Right. So, right, here we go. So, right. One thing I missed, right? The iceman's hair also revealed high levels of arsenic, suggesting he was a pro at smelting ores to make copper. We mentioned that. Here we go. Now, what we want to do is we want to look at another fact. Remember, this guy, the guy's body weight initially was 335 pounds, right? Which, can one of you work out what that is in stone, please? Just so I don't have to do it. Translate 135 pounds to stone, right? Because I can't work it out otherwise. Well, that's one of your thingamajigs. So shout
about 9.5, isn't it?
9.5 stone,
something like that.
9.5, 10,
Yeah.
10 stone. Okay.
Under 10 stone.
Right. Okay. Well, that's not bad for somebody who was
9.6.
What's that?
9.6 stone.
Right. So 9.5 stone then. Right. So so that's not bad for somebody who is 5 foot 2 inches. Right. So I'm actually I'm the last time I was weighed. Well, I'm probably about 9.5 stone, but then again, I'm not very stocky, and I got high metabolism and nose from the crap I eat. But this guy was 5 feet 2 inches or 5 feet 3 inches, so a weight of 9.5 stone means that, you know, he was quite.
He was skinny.
I wouldn't say he was skinny.
I'm 5
No,
foot 3.
it'd be quite reasonable. It'd be
stone.
quite reasonable at that. It wouldn't be skinny at that. It'd be reasonable. Not a fat.
Yeah, yeah. I would go reasonable way. I'd go with Anne on that one.
16 stone.
Yeah, Pete. Shut up. Right. So, right. This is another fact. Right. Another fact. Let's go with that. Right. This image. Right. Now, if you're going to go with this, right, visible injuries suggested he engaged in combat. Several right-sided rib fractures had healed. Well, if they had healed, right, that's got nothing to do with his death, I believe, anyway. Well, Otzi was struck in the head shortly before his death. Well, yeah, but shortly before his death. So a protein analysis of his brain revealed some healing, particularly in the form of blood clots. When they say shortly before his death, then this could have been days before, but those could have caused a stroke or embolism. So in other words, the events leading to his death may have occurred sometime before. We're talking about days before he actually died. The Iceman also suffered a long, deep stab wound to his right hand. But that's okay, Adam, you can work out. Is that going to kill you? Particularly in freezing cold conditions when you don't have bacteria around. Anyway, based on the stage of healing evidence from the wound tissue, it occurred 3 to 8 days before his death. So the stab wound in his hand occurred 3 to 8 days before his death. And of course, the arrow lodged in his left shoulder was likely the ultimate cause of death. In short, Otzi was a hunter and a fighter. We don't have right, from what I can remember, right, the arrow, from what I can remember from the imagery, they couldn't actually find they didn't know because they did an X-ray and they found an arrowhead in his ribs, so it actually come from no, it was lodged in the back of his ribs, right? So it lodged in there, I think, if I can remember, right? And oh, actually, what we'll do, I'm not going to presume anymore. We're going to go on to an image. Otherwise, I'm going to get this wrong, right? So what I want us to do, I think I might be able to get this in straight away. So Otzi the Iceman, arrow in ribs. I think I'll get it straight away. Arrow in rib. Oh, in shoulder. I thought it was in his ribs. Researchers probed the arrow hole under Otzi's shoulder. The arrow destroyed the shoulder blade. This week, almost 10 years after the discovery. Right. Okay, I thought it went in his ribs. So I was wrong. So I'm glad I didn't assume there. So if we go with, I got that wrong. That's another thing. When you believe something, you can't get out of your bed. So apologize for that. X-ray. So here we go. I'm glad I checked this. Best thing to do. Right. No, actually, no. That's where I'm getting the rib thing from. There it is. There, bingo. Basically, you can't see the mark from where it went in. There, they couldn't find it. Right. So when they did the X-ray, right, this is behind, basically lodged, associated with the rib. So I was right about that. But what did the note say? It said what did it say? It said hang on. It if we go back, it basically said lesion to an artery near his left shoulder. But that's not. I got where it would have hit several large blood vessels. Right, here we go. Let's just see what this says, right? And then we'll go back to my text, and then we can work this out, right? So there we go. Go. This is 2001. Otzi the Iceman did not die from an alpine fall or losing his way. He was shot in the back from an arrow. A chest X-ray scan solved the mystery. So they didn't find it for about 10 years. The image show a flint arrowhead buried deep in Otzi's left shoulder, where it would have hit several large blood vessels. If he was running, he would be bleeding a lot. He probably died from loss of blood. The cause of Otzi's death has been a matter. So that's what we've got. So if we go back to the X-ray evidence, right? So if we go back with there it is. You can see that something like these here. Oh, hang on a minute, Andy. They're the complete arrowhead. I think on the left. You seeing that, Andy? Are you there, Andy? That's the kit.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get it to clear the mute to go off. Yeah, it's stone, definitely, aren't they?
Yeah, they're flint. Oh,
yeah.
they're chert, not flint, they're chert.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're placed on with go. I'm glad we found that by accident. So that's answered one of your questions, Andy. Right. So just talking about this, you can basically see there that it's damaged the scapula, and it's there by his ribs. So that's where it is. And basically earlier on, you can clearly see there that you can't really see. They found this by accident. They completely found it by accident. They only found it via an X-ray. And right, okay. So we got that. I don't know if that's the actual damage there, but if we actually go back to what we were talking about, and then find, oh god, but back to what we were saying now. Back to my text again. So here we go. We know about that now. So we know he's a hunter and a fighter, right? Here we go. So the other thing as well is the other fact about Otzi now. Sorry, we're getting slowly to the end now, or we're running out of time. So Otzi was an omnivore. The Iceman's stomach contents revealed both his last meal and the meal before that. A 2018 study published in Current Biology tested Otzi's stomach contents and found traces of his final meal: dried ibex meat and fat, red deer meat, einkorn wheat, and remnants of a toxic plant. That's the one that's going to deal with his but these eating. It might have been toxic today, but it might have not been then. Anyway, in the early 2000s, scientists conducted a DNA analysis of samples of digested food collected from his colon. Otzi's second to last meal consisted of ibex meat, along with various species of cereals and flowering plants. The discovery of red deer in his digestive system is especially interesting, since depictions of that animal figure prominently in archaeological finds throughout the Alps in this period. So it was a favorite food, right? It was a favorite food. Right. So the next thing is the next other weird fact is, there you go. If we zoom in there, he's got a gap in his front teeth, which we've mentioned before. Otzi had a gap in his smile and other unusual characteristics. Between Otzi's top two teeth is a natural diastema, which is the anatomical term for a gap in the teeth. Among modern adults, about 10 to 20% or have this gap. It's like a cleft lip, but it's not. Researchers also saw in the iceman's mouth third molar, basically saw in the iceman's mouth third molar agenesis, the anatomical term for lacking wisdom teeth. Right, so he had no wisdom teeth. Around 35% of people today lack wisdom teeth. Otzi was also missing some bones, the smallest of the ribs on his eye, on either side. This lack of ribs is not unheard of, but it only affects about 5% of the population. So he's missing ribs. Right, 3 other facts. Here we go. Right, Andy, this is about you in particular. You might be related to Otzi. The Iceman's genome was sequenced in 2012, revealing he had brown eyes and O-type blood, was lactose intolerant, and likely had Lyme disease. The mutations in Otzi's paternal genetic line are most commonly found in Sardinia and Corsica, meaning those areas likely have descendants of his genetic family. Another study in 2013 tested thousands of modern men in the Alps and discovered that 19 men in the samples shared a genetic lineage with the Iceman. His maternal DNA line, however, appears to be extinct. So if you're a guy and your ancestry goes back to roughly 620-mile band between Sardinia and the Alps, there is a chance you could be related to Otzi. Definitely you, Andy. I hope we're nearly coming to the end in a minute, Adam, so you better come up with a conclusion. Otzi might be cursed. Here we go. Andy, he died. There you go. Otzi might be cursed. We all know that every ancient mummy is cursed. So, of course, the Iceman has his own story. In 2005, rumors circulated that the deaths of at least 5 people may have been related to a mummy's curse. Helmut Simon, one of the 2 hikers who discovered the Iceman, died falling off the side of a mountain. One of the Bee Gees died. An alpine guide who airlifted the mummy out of the glacier died in an avalanche. A journalist who filmed the recovery of the mummy died of a brain tumor. A forensic expert who touched Otzi with his bare hands died in a car accident en route to a conference to talk about the mummy. Even the death of the head of the research team of Innsbruck University has been attributed to the Otzi curse, in spite of the fact it was from multiple sclerosis. Also, Lloyd George died as well. There is, of course, no evidence that these deaths are related to anything other than bad luck or coincidence. And the final fact of Otzi. We've got to do the final Otzi fact. This is it. And then, Adam, it's all on you now. Everything's on you. If you haven't worked this out, Adam, we're stuffed. Practically every inch of Otzi has been scanned and recorded. Those are some of his samples from his colon. There he is. He looks like a very nice boy, doesn't he? There he is. He's still being examined today. Can you imagine a little child saying, "Mum, he's got a small winky"? Practically every inch of Otzi has been scanned and recorded. Otzi has been thoroughly CT scanned over the years for analysis. In 2016, CT scans were meshed with digital photographs 3D printed and then painted to create 3 life-size Otzi clones. There he is. The Iceman's first 2 3D prints are on display at the DNA Learning Center at Cold Harbor Laboratory in Cold Spring Harbor, New York. By the way, Cold Harbor was the last Confederate victory in 1864. Sorry, stupid fact. Along with 3D printed bones from his body. The 3rd life-size print remains at the South Tyrol Museum, which is this one, along with the real migratory hunter-herder whose own journey has lasted more than 50 centuries. What the hell's that? Anyway, so in other words, there he is. Otzi still on display. There he is, but it's a recreation. There he is. We're loving it. Okay. The arm broke whilst somebody was getting him out. There's the samples. Don't mistake that for something you put in your stew. There's a reconstruction of all his kit. And again, we know that that thing on the left-hand side is a loincloth. Tattoos. Statue of Lloyd George.
Can I ask a question before you finish on this one? Top left-hand corner. What's that? We haven't spoken about that.
Oh no! Why? I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, then that's all right. If we don't know,
You've been talking to Peter, haven't you?
no, it's just as we seem to have accounted for everything on the page except that.
It's for
I know what it is, but I know what that is, but Margaret's going to tell us.
It's for sharpening tools.
Oh,
Sharpening tools. It's a piece of flint or something for sharpening.
No, it's wood, isn't it?
No, it's a bag of bits.
Right.
It's a bag. It's a leather bag containing bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
It have
a leather bag.
Sharpening his tools.
That's the leather bag.
Probably in the leather bag.
Oh, right. I tell you what, you and
Pencil.
Peter and Anne flip an egg. What?
Pencil.
It looked like a pencil, or it looked like a bullet, but I didn't think it would be a bullet.
No, probably not.
Right. Okay. We'll move on from that. Right. Moving on. Right. That again, examining his intestine. There he is again. He looks a bit like Andy. He looks a bit like that. I've seen that sort of theatrical image of Andy. It looks like him on that one. There he is. Last breath. There it is. And obviously, we've got the marble thing, not the bit of marble there, and that stone object. And obviously, there he is, Otzi, and there's the bear hat. There's all his doings, and basically, and I'm so glad that Peter asked me what that was, the loincloth on the left. And the grass is there. Job done. Told you that, didn't I? And there we go. And that's back to the quiver. So what we're going to do, we're going to call that a day now. And we've even got to Andy's arrows. And okay, so let's just whatever. Let's just see if there's any questions. Pat hasn't fallen asleep yet. Right. Okay. Right. Let's start off with Pat. Any questions, Pat?
No, I don't think so. I think I better take off. Okay.
Okay, Pat. Good to see you, Pat. We'll see you next week.
Okie doke.
Bye, Pat.
Bye.
Take care. Night, Pat. Night, Pat.
Bye,
Night, Pat. Night. Okay, right. Where's David? Is there anything you'd like to ask tonight?
No, thank you. Good
Okay.
night, all.
Good night,
Bye,
David.
David.
I'm glad your
Bye.
arm's repaired. Glad your arm's repaired. Right. Okay. Night, David. Right. Anne, anything you'd like to say, darling?
No, it's been very interesting. I very much enjoyed this one.
Good. And no doubt we'll that thing in the left-hand corner. You know, it's there. It's there for everyone. Right. Margaret.
No, nothing much really.
What's the thing in the left-hand corner? Have we worked that out completely?
Well, I've got lots of photographs in this book. There is a leather pouch and there is a tool sharpening thingy. So I just wondered if it was that.
Mm.
Right. Okay. Well, you got
just to know that they kind of in the book they're wondering where he's from, and they're talking about all the habitations and the villages that were around at the time. And they did say it could have been quite a violent area. A lot of the villages and houses, the things that they have found, were surrounded by ditches and palisades, which showed they wanted to keep the enemy out.
nice.
Mm.
By the way, I didn't know any of these messages were actually on. We've had a load of messages online as well, and it's evidence of Lyme disease. Probably also using it for the effects of Lyme, including joint inflammation, tattoos. We've got your charcoal also has many medical uses. Obviously talking about shamanism. Romans in South Wales book arrived. Anyway, Lee's sacred tree to the Celts. Arsenic almonds. Carnivore hunter, low body fat, muscular frame. There we go. Major blood loss, toxic or medical. Positive indications, carnivore hunter gatherer, the best diet even by today's standards. Right?
Yeah.
Was he transgender? Dude needs to keep his nuts warm. Right, okay. Warring tribes. Okay, that's from Pagan Witch 69, who's obviously got a copy of my book. Thanks, Lee. We even know your name. Right, okay. Right. So who have we got left? We've got a Peter, we got the Peters, and then we got Andy, and then Adam's gonna give us a conclusion. Adam, you gotta be judge and jury at the end. We're all waiting for it. So Peters first.
No, fine for me.
Okay. So what we're going to do, we've got the other one. We got the other one, and go for it. Go for it, Peter.
Oh no, it's just nice seeing all those bits and bobs. I thought that was great.
I found it.
She's found
Go
it.
on, tell us.
An implement shaped like a pencil stub, interpreted as a retoucher. Used for finishing flint and to give the object its final shape, and can be used for sharpening points and cutting edges. That's
basically a retoucher. A retoucher can be quite sort of quite
flint.
It's just sort of we go. This is what a toucher is. Yeah, that's what
they've even done an X-ray of it.
You put pressure on it and it touches it. It can be softer than the flint, but it pressure on it. It can touch it. Yeah, that's what that is. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay, and somebody wants me to go to Scotland and visit something that they've found. So I'll be dropping in and staying with you, Margaret. Now, thank you very much. Right, okay. Who have we got? We've got Andy. Adam's waiting here. Adam is actually he's caked. Andy, keep him waiting. Go on. Andy, say something.
No, I haven't got really any questions. I'm quite interested to see what Adam comes to before I'll say anything.
Oh.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. That's not the rule, Andy. You can't influence yourself on what Adam's saying.
Oh, well, if I say something, it'll influence him.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Okay, because Andy's been with us since 1862. You're allowed that for once. Like, what we're going to do, we're going to have Adam now we're going to have Adam fully on the screen. Go on, Adam. You've got 1 minute to tell us what you think happened to Otzi. Go on, we're going to believe you, and this is what Anne's going to tell him in Fish and Chips tomorrow. Go for it.
Right, the most likely one for me is that he has actually been ambushed, and he's on the run. Basically, he's managed to escape whatever ambush it is, and the wounds have gotten the better of him. It seems like for a course of days, given the healing on some of the wounds. It could be that his mates might have accidentally shot him in the back in the chaos of a kind of onslaught of unexpected animals approaching. I don't know, but I think it's the most likely the first one, to be fair.
Right, so that is your conclusion is actually, if we're going to go with the first conclusion, that is slightly away from what was thought once was that he was in a village, and the people of the village that were his neighbours felt that they didn't want him anymore, and they chased him out of the village. But you're saying it was an ambush of people that didn't know him. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. Potentially, right. Yeah.
Territorial.
And thank you for that, Adam. What's going to happen now is Anne is going to tell everybody in the fish and chip shop tomorrow, and that's the conclusion. Thank you very much, Adam. And that is going to influence. However, because you are the judge and jury this week, we cannot take any notice of anything Andy says. But Andy, you're last now. Go on, Andy.
No, well, he might still be right. I think that if you look at the arrow wound, the skin doesn't seem to be discolored around it, and the entry wound is very small, which would suggest it's been there some time and it's had a chance to recover. So it could have been a few days beforehand, which could go with an ambush and him on the run. And I think fatigue probably got him down on the run because of the toxicology suggests, especially with the cyanide and stuff, that he would be pretty knackered. And if he was feeling ill as well, he may well have run out of energy. And the fact that he's also got his arm across like that would suggest he was trying to shelter himself, and cover himself with his cloak and things. So I think he ran out of energy, possibly with blood loss as well, and the fatigue from the other things, and a storm caught him out, and he died on the hill, but having run away, not being chased. But
could have been a mistake, somebody trying to shoot a deer or a bear or something, and he got in the way. They didn't notice.
There is one thing forensically that there is one thing forensically that I think seems to have been missed, right? Basically, the arrowhead was found without any of the shaft.
Yeah.
That doesn't usually happen. There should have been some of the shaft in there, and there was no shaft. So
which
in
would
other words,
suggest somebody's tried to pull it out, haven't they? So
they have pulled it out, and the arrowhead's become lodged in there. Yeah, I think that's an interesting issue. I can't say any more than that, but it's odd. That is very, very odd. That we've got.
There's no bruising around that shaft hole either, which there would be if it was newish. So it's settled down. Hasn't healed up though, had it? So
there's no information, I think that there's a little, that's a bit odd. There's something odd there. Yeah, something odd. That's the elephant in the room. That's the smoking gun. There's something not quite right there. That's the only detail that doesn't look right. Yeah,
it will have hurt. That's for sure.
Shut up.
Yeah, well,
it would have hurt.
If he's climbing up the mountain and trying to run away, he's carrying an injury, isn't he? And his hand.
He's bloody dying. What do you expect?
Well, exactly. He's dying, and he's got all that.
And he got
arsenic
as well.
I think he might have been smoking the old weed supplied to him by
maybe he was poisoned.
Exactly.
Could have been an angry wife.
well, if you're like me, having 4 wives, my 4 wives. Do you know what my daughter said to me? She said, my beautiful 21-year-old daughter. Well, all my children are beautiful. She said, Dad, how many times have you been married? I think you're talking to my children, Peter, because you're putting stupid ideas in their heads.
Right, okay. Be off. Good night, folks.
Bye.
Okay.
Good night,
Peter, I will speak to you next week, Peter. Take care.
Right.
Good night. See you tomorrow.
Take care, Peter.
Good night.
Right, now we've just got the 6 of us. I think that's it. We've managed to get to 10:17. I'll just see if there's any other final thing to say online, and then we'll call it a day. The person online, Pagan the Witch, who remains mysterious as Lee, who lives in Swansea, who's just got a copy of Romans in South Wales, says, in a tribe leadership issue or ambush from other warring tribe. He copied your idea, Adam. Someone pulled it out. Leadership issue left to die. Somebody stole his nuts. Friendly fire. He would be taken back to camp. Right. So hang on. And then that's that final fact. Right. Thank you for that's the other thing as well, is if the guy was so special, right? And he was killed by people who knew him, right, by accident. Why didn't they take him back?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Why was all his stuff left there? All that stuff belonged to the village. It didn't belong to him. It belonged to the community. And that copper axe he had, right, would have been one of the most valuable objects that tribal group had, right?
So he's died.
Maybe there'd been a group of them that were attacked, and he was the only one escaped.
Ooh.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that could be another possibility.
He's died alone.
Yes, he died alone. I say the others. He could have been the one that escaped from perhaps 3 or 4 of them got attacked, and he got away. His friend, while in the process of he pulled the arrow out fairly instantly in the middle of it, but the others didn't survive. I mean, that sort of thing could happen.
Maybe there are.
He must have been travelling on his own.
Yeah.
Maybe the what, Margaret?
Maybe there are others that haven't been discovered yet.
Yep, absolutely.
They did,
and they'll all be found on the Austrian side.
They found in the salt mines there a lot of very ancient preserved bodies.
Yeah.
You can imagine it now. 3 are found on the Austrian side, and they say, "Look at this. We've got 3 of them. You've only got 1 in Italy." And we'll call them all Fritz. Or one of them has to be a woman as well. Forget it. Right. So if nobody else has got anything else to say, Pagan Witch, who remains anonymous online, Lee from Swansea, says, final point from Lee says, from behind indicates foul play by tribe to me. And that's it. Good. So what we're going to do, we're going to call that a day if nobody else has got anything else to say. We've beaten the record of these classes now. It's gone past bloody 20 past 10. Right. Anyone else got anything else they want to say before we go? Margaret, Anne, Peter, Andy, or Adam?
No, good night, all.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
See you tomorrow, Peter.
Thanks.
Bye. Night,
Thanks,
all.
Carl. Good night.
No, my pleasure. Night. My pleasure. Night. See you, Adam. Get me on the show, lol. Right. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Lee. Right. If you want to join us, right, every week online, right. If you want to join us every week online, right. Because I'm trying to make a living out of this. If you paid £32 for 2 months, right? If you paid £32 for 2 months, right? And then we send you the link and you can get online with us. I get more money. You get some entertainment value, and you get to keep your own nuts. And that's it. And that's for everybody else online. So anyone else wants to actually join the party, right? It's 30 quid actually. I will put the email doodah in you now, because everyone else has gone. Because somebody had their nuts stolen, I think. And if I type this in, you can get a link. Is if you want to join us, actually doodah. And I tell you what, if you want to, if anyone wants to join my channel, which is slightly different, but if you join the channel, he's got a shift something. Right, so join it, and that's it. If I go type this in, flipping heck, bloody Lee, mysterious Lee from Swansea, nobody knows where he lives, right? And he's got a shift. He's on a sinking ship. Right, okay. Right, there we go. Anyway, just out of interest, if you're interested. Right, okay. And you got, if you press the join button down below as well, right? It's £1.99 a month. You get free updates. Sorry, Lee, to push the money side of things. I'm poor. I've got to go in shops and eat Jaffa cakes. It's terrible. Anyway, Lee, there's only 2 of you left now. So almonds, arsenic, evidence of migration. That's true. I put arsenic in my school teacher's drink once. He was off for a week. Oh, right, okay. So I'm going to see if there's anything in the chat box. Right, nobody puts anything in the chat box. Right, nobody put close, and it's not been working on the thing. No worry, bills to pay. Yeah, hey, I know you got bills to pay. I was really winding you up. Don't take it personally, Lee. Anyway, enjoy the book, Lee. Right, it's me and you. Right, it's mano a mano now. Right, I don't know how many people are online. Right, anyway, so anything in the chat box? No. Okay, Lee, I really appreciate you joining us anyway. And hopefully, Lee, if you want to join us tomorrow, which is Wednesday, then that's going to be at about 20 past 7. Wednesdays is more entertaining because I got a couple of real nut jobs in that one. who like being nut jobs. Anyway, Lee, I'm going to call it a day. No. Anyway, thanks for joining us on your shift, and that's it. Good. Not personal. I have bills to pay. Hey, I know I got bill to pay as well. He's a pain in the bloody ass. It's been fun. It has been fun. But if you join us tomorrow, Wednesday, right? Join us tomorrow, Wednesday at 7:20. It's the same type of thing, but I love these people on a Tuesday, but on Wednesday they're more nuttier. I will on sick virus. Oh, sick virus. What the fuck? Anyway, take care.